So anyway, and then I said rectum, nearly killed him. Oh shoot, we're live. Hey
Oh,
everybody, thanks for coming in today. We're
there.
gonna do a book review. This is my partner in the Truckers Book Club here, Snorlord, the Metalhead, Viking, Caveman, Trucker, and whatnot. Check out his channel. He's got a channel, and we get together once in a while and do these book reviews. Uh, we read books because you can't read, and then we tell you about them. Oh, too close to the camera. There you go.
Too close.
There you go.
Gotta
This
tap
book
this.
is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. I did the audiobook on Audible, and
And I did the physical.
Snorlord here likes paper, which I do too, but I like to listen while I'm driving or mowing the lawn or whatever. I think this is. What do you think? So let's do a vote right off the bat, Steve. Siskel and Ebert style, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs up.
Oh, that's 2 thumbs up. It's
Two
two
thumbs
thumbs up
up.
from the Peanut Gallery. We finally did a book that could be useful. Well, other ones are kind of useful too, but this one in a different way, kind of towards the business end of it. So we're going to talk about it today. We both got some notes here. We're going to go through step by step. Now, there's a lot to this book.
A lot.
The premise is Chris Voss is a former FBI negotiator, a very good one apparently, and he wrote a book about negotiations. It's just about the general art of negotiations. It's not, in relation to trucking or any particular thing. But if you get into the book, you can see how it quickly would be. So, Steve, you know more about the Chris Voss thing and his background and about him writing the book. What do you got? What do you think?
Yeah. So basically, where he comes from, he can't fail at his negotiating because he's negotiating people's lives. And so, what makes the book awesome is, well, one of the things that makes the book awesome is that he puts these real life stories that he's encountered in his travels through the FBI, going across the world, negotiating with terrorists, negotiating with people holding people hostage in the bank. This stuff that you see in the movies. And he had a lot of success stories. Sorry, and a lot of he had a couple of failures too. And basically what he found out was that the old style of negotiating, the old style of how the FBI approached things was no bueno. So they had to update it. And so he figured out that you gotta mess with the psychology. You gotta figure out what they want. They call it tactical empathy. And what's great is, so CDN Freight Broker, he sent me this book. He sent me like 3 books. And he goes like, this might help you with your business stuff, right? He goes, I haven't read this yet, but I will. But I've heard good things about this book. I'm like, okay, and I'm like, another one of these, go get them business, negotiating books. I didn't have high expectations, but I humored it. And within the first chapter, I was like, no, this is cool. This is going to be different,
It wasn't stale and boring.
No, it wasn't one of these like things that you see late at night, infomercial type,
Right.
Books. This had riveting stories. It made you want to read it to the next chapter. And I had trouble with the last chapter because I kept stopping to either earmark the page, or to yellow, highlight. Or I mean, I was like, it got to the point where I was actually drawing in the book, writing, how it relates to me, because it's not just negotiating with terrorists or anything like that. It's negotiating in everything. He uses examples of business. He uses examples of salary. He used an example of someone negotiating their rent, him buying a car, anything that you need to negotiate, anything that you need to do business with. And so part of the processing, I'm sure you went through this too, is, okay, how can I relate this to my world?
Yeah.
When negotiating with brokers, negotiating with customers, negotiating with drivers. I think that
Yeah.
was
It's more or less through example, the psychology of negotiations, and then you take that, okay, I'm not dealing with a bank robber holding people hostage. Now I'm dealing with a TQL agent trying to hold everybody hostage, right? So we're just trying to hold that money hostage. Different situation. The psychology of it is the same. Maybe there's not as much fear and emotion involved, but the principles are still the same. So you just adapt to that situation.
Yeah, and so I found, like, especially the last chapter. I mean, you should see it. Looks like a kid was writing in this thing. I mean, I'm gonna have to reread the last chapter twice because I mean, there's just so much to it. The Black Swan, but we should probably start towards the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
Um, Before we get into details, though, what were the things that stood out the most to you? Like, it's been a couple of weeks since you finished the book. I know you're
Yeah.
waiting on me, and I
It's
apologize.
okay. I may reread this book because I did it in many segments over a period of time, and you
Hmm.
lose a little bit.
Yeah.
And I found there's a lot of valuable things in there. So, things that stood out to me is the part about getting to know.
Hmm.
All right, I wouldn't have thought of that. Um, let me. I got my notes here on it. Let me just look at my notes because I'm a dummy. Uh, Empathy. Okay, tactical empathy.
Hmm.
You kind of it's maybe intuitive, but hadn't really thought it would be that big a deal or important. So that that was good. The use of the word fair. Like I would have totally used the word fair in the complete wrong context.
Hmm.
Um, so that was I found that was valuable. Um, the part about how can I do this? How am I supposed to do that? Etc. Uh, and then the black swan event, and then just the power of silence.
Hmm.
You put something out there, and then you just wait, and 90% of the people are going to fill that gap in for you.
Right.
So
It, for me, it was one of the things was was smile. Use the smooth radio voice. That kind of thing.
hmm
The mirroring, which it was funny because you were in one of my live feeds one time and you were mirroring. You were doing the mirroring thing. It was hilarious. Um, and by mirroring, they say, an example is, oh man, we're really struggling this week because um, we're down two people and one of our forklifts is down, so we're really having trouble here. And you literally say, yeah, yeah, it sounds like you're having some trouble because you got a forklift down. You do it in a non, it's like
yeah,
it's not
labeling,
obvious
labeling,
labeling, yeah. And so what that does is that shows that you understand. It shows that you have a bond. Shows that I can relate. It's a
empathy.
fancier
Yeah,
way of saying I can relate. Um, the Black Swan chapter is just every word of that is gold, just pure gold. I mean, and it was interesting going through the book because there were some things that I'm already doing. Because not only am I negotiating with brokers, but I'm also, I've got relationship with drivers from an authoritative standpoint, being a safety manager, but also from a business relationship standpoint. And then dealing with some of the stuff I've dealt with my family on, but that's the other thing. You can use this stuff for every day, like, getting your kids to bed on time or,
hmm
having family members do things for you or with you. And I thought that the practicality of it was just awesome.
yeah. Be careful about trying it on your wife because she might punch you in the mouth. Just
Well,
saying.
she read this book too, and she's in the chat.
Okay.
She read this book too, and she was ahead of me for most of the book. I think. Well, actually, no, she finished it before me as well. But there was a couple of times we were neck and neck on the. She was reading my book. She had her own bookmark, but yeah, it was kind of interesting. Some of the stuff I've used, and some of the stuff I'm like, oh, okay, I did that wrong, and some of the stuff I'm like, wow, have no idea. Wow, that's it's like I wrote probably the word wow like several times in this book. So
Okay.
but the
Well, Thank you,
So,
Sterling Whale, for the $10 super chat. I appreciate it. He says his
oh,
favorite
nice.
lesson from the book is the difference between active and passive listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something we've all done naturally. You might find after you know the difference that you've been doing it all along. It's
Mhm.
it's part of it can be part of a personality, the active and passive listener. And I'm not ignoring the chat here, guys. We'll come back to this, and we will definitely read comments here.
Yeah,
Uh,
because I know several people in this chat have read the book. I know Wife Lord did. CDN's in the process of.
yep.
Sterling read it. Who else? Pigtail,
Uh,
he's read it. He's in the chat, I believe.
okay.
So
Yeah. So um, let me. Should we start walking through the steps here, kind of the book, the tactics? Is that what
sure.
we want to do?
Yeah.
Let me. This is a bad way to keep notes on the computer because the stupid thing
Do you have
is
two
really.
screens?
I don't know.
You
I
don't
don't know
know?
what I'm doing.
That's
uh,
fine.
now it's out of order. Oh no! What have I done?
You messed up.
I did. Okay. How about we just okay, first going into it with a goal. That's pretty much understood,
Mhm.
right? Prepare, what kind of tactics are you going to use here? You run through some things ahead of time. Your tone. Okay, like you said, smile, slow it down, and three voices. You got your late night DJ voice. That's use selectively to make a point with downward inflection, calm and slow. You got your positive and playful. That should be kind of your default voice. And
Mhm.
then direct and assertive. That should be used, rarely when you're trying to assert yourself. But most of the time, positive and playful, use your natural voice, your natural personality.
So my thoughts on that, and this might be a good way to do this. You go over the notes, and I'll go over what I've kind of learned and what I see a lot of drivers having problems with, and brokers
Deal.
too, for that
Okay.
matter. So whenever you can't be, I think that some of us, when we call, especially like somebody like TQL, that's notorious for having their games, we call with a confrontational tone.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right
you
off the bat.
call and you're like, yeah, how much for this load going from Springfield to, Carlisle, Pennsylvania? I got tolls, I mean, right away. And also seeing them as the enemy, right? They have a goal as well. And once you recognize their goals, that was the great thing about friending CDM Freight Broker is he kind of gave me a view of the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And so it helps me with tactical empathy. If you're a broker and you're looking at three, computer screens and your boss is down your neck to not go above a certain percentage on the commission or whatever, you got a lot of pressure on you. And we were getting that $4 and $5 a mile, man. I had brokers, getting mad, yelling, hanging up on, because they were just stressed out. But I do know that a lot of drivers will call with this confrontational tone. They're not pleasant to talk to. They're not, so imagine you're a broker who's talked to 20 different drivers and you
Mm-hmm.
call with this tone like you don't even want to be there. That's tough to sell them your services.
If you're in a bad mood, in a bad place, fake it.
Mm-hmm. Fake it. Yeah.
Like fake it till you make it. Fake that you're in a good mood. If you're not professional, fake it like you're professional. I mean,
Yeah.
give yourself a fighting chance. Give yourself the best odds. Uh, it's,
And
it's
that's
not
one
a
of the
lot of
reasons why I kind of like email sometimes. Of course, I'm sitting behind the desk. You can't do it in the truck, but I can sit there and put this. I've got like this script that I just copy and paste. It's good morning, or good afternoon, depending on what time of day. I'm looking at your load, picking up so and so to so and so. What can we do for you to help get this off your desk? I've got this whole script that I write, and I could be in the worst mood, but I still look cheerful on the email.
Yeah. Okay, so then let's move into the next thing. Here's where it starts to really get into the tactics here. Mirroring. Repeating the last or critical three words of what someone else has just said. It insinuates similarity with which facilitates bonding, that you have maybe a common goal or interest in a common outcome. where you both can win. Connectors, because they help your counterpart connect thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So mirroring, that's a first tactic here.
Yeah. So if the broker repeats, we really need, like, I booked a load that was delivering to a military base, and so the broker reiterated. He goes, we need him to be a U.S. citizen and have a clean background. I said, okay, he needs to be a U.S. citizen and a clean background. We've got that.
Mm,
It's like I mirrored that
I mirrored that.
concern.
Right, that concern.
Yeah. DIY is the master of the mirror.
No, it shows you're paying it. You know what? It shows you're paying attention,
Mm-hmm.
and even if you aren't, it shows you're interested in what they're saying. You're not
Right.
so you don't want to appear that you only care about you. You only care
Mm-hmm.
about yourself. You're only interested in what you want. By mirroring, you're showing, oh, he's paying attention to what I'm saying. Maybe he actually even cares about what I'm saying, and that maybe it's also important to him, and he's actually going to do it.
Yeah. So if you call the broker and you're like, they go, okay, it's 40,000 pounds of, okay, I'll do it for 1,500. Yeah, let me
40,000 pounds, 26 pallets. Okay.
It and I've talked to brokers that say, what do you think of these carriers that call and they go straight to the money, and straight to accusing you of taking too much money without even hearing the details, without even hearing what the delivery and pickup times are,
Right.
And so that's a big part of it. So if
Yep,
you can
that's
learn this
a big
stuff,
part
you
of
will
it.
have an advantage over the people that don't.
You'll have an advantage over the people that don't. You're gonna hate me by the end of this. But you almost think I'm listening to you, right?
Yeah, you're probably you're probably petting your dog or something. You're
I'm
just like,
probably petting my
la la
dogs.
land.
Yeah. In the mirroring process, use your late night DJ voice. Okay, that's a place for the DJ voice. Start sentence with "I'm sorry," and then silence. 4 seconds to let mirror work its magic, and then repeat yourself if you have to.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. You're not gonna give me the chance, are you? Okay, We'll just go right then to tactical empathy. Imagine yourself in the counterpart situation. Now you don't have to care, but you have to. One thing, this is something that's missing completely from the trucking industry, and the things that we do as one truck guy is being able to look at the situation from somebody else's perspective. You have to learn to do that if you're going to have any level of success. Uh, you have to be the guy that understands all aspects of it. Okay, and then recognize their perspective and vocalize that recognition. Understand your counterpart's feelings and hear what is behind those feelings. Bring my attention to the emotional obstacles to get an agreement done, and look at words, tone, and body language. Spot changes and look for incongruencies.
So one of the first things I did in my trucking career was I was having an issue with my dispatcher, and he can tell we were on this path of probably clashing. So one day he brings me in the office. We were one of those places that had the bulletproof glass. So he brings me the other side of the office and he shows me his screens. And it's the first time I've ever seen two screens on a computer, and shows me what he's looking at, shows what shows everything. And then safety went in there and showed me what they see off the Qualcomm. And what it allowed me to do is it allowed me to understand their situation, so I'm not in my truck just all bottling up my feelings, getting mad because I'm in my own head and I don't know what's going on
Yeah,
the other side.
bottling up your feelings. Sorry that that happens.
See, pay attention to what Adam's doing, because he's doing a lot of these tactics on in the book. So, but it so I so when I was struggling with some of the brokers. Actually, I started at Landstar when I was struggling with some of the agents. I would call them. I'm like, "Hey, look, give me some insight. Give me some insight of what your day's like. Give me some insight." And I've done that with brokers, and it's been successful. You don't always get the home run deal, but you at least walk away without anger or discontentment.
They're just doing a job just like we are.
Yeah,
They're
you
not,
know they.
they're not, eating puppy blood, trying to, evil conquer the world. They're doing their job, and we're doing our job. And the more you understand their job, it's power. It's knowledge is power. Uh, you'll understand why they can or can't do this, and you may understand by knowing their job that, oh, maybe I can ask for this other thing. Maybe it doesn't have monetary value. Maybe it's something else. I mean, there's all
Mhm.
kinds of things to put into a negotiation, but you wouldn't even know if you don't understand what they do.
Right, and so a lot of times, and I started using this immediately after I read it. I would call the broker, hey, they would like, okay, what would you need on this load? I'm like, well, I understand that both of our bosses are kind of breathing down our necks on trying to, get us the best deal, and I understand that things are this way and this way for you guys, and I understand that the shippers are doing that, man, but if we can be around this number, we can, hopefully we can find a common goal that satisfies both of our bosses, and that worked. Like, it was like
You're
flipping a
deflecting
switch.
you're deflecting the negativity off of them and onto their boss. You're
Yeah.
a third party, right? So they'll they may open up a little bit after that, right? No,
And
that's
I actually had a broker do that. He started sending me screenshots of what his screen looked like and why he couldn't go up on his rates. And they were strangling him, and so lo and behold, we haven't done that many loads with them because they're cutting everybody. And he told me flat out. He told me, because of the radio voice, because of my approach, people have told me things that they probably shouldn't have told me. So,
yeah. I spill it
um,
to you like a little schoolgirl, don't I?
nah.
Um, yeah, and if you want to advance, we're only talking about from the perspective of talking to brokers. You want to move up the food chain and start talking to customers directly, shippers and receivers. That's totally different conversation what you're having with a broker. So if you can't gain a level of understanding of how the whole picture of logistics works, you don't have a chance. They're going to eat you for breakfast.
Yep.
So definitely, seek out that other side.
Yeah,
So,
definitely seek out that other side.
all right. So you got me. You got me. Okay, labels. Here's this is one of my favorite ones. I think I drive you nuts with this. Validate someone's emotion by acknowledging it. It yeah. Use sentences like "it seems like," or
Hmm.
"it sounds like," or "it looks like." You know, it seems like to me, Steve, that you were really looking to do this live stream tomorrow rather than today.
Yeah, but we're here, so
There you go. I didn't, so and then pause to let the label sink in. Other party will fill the silence, and by gosh, if that didn't just happen, did it?
Yep. It's crazy.
Played you like a fiddle. Every fourth verbalization should be a label. That seems a little excessive, and I think if the other party caught on to that, it would drive them nuts.
Yeah, it so one of the things that kept going in my mind in the when I was reading the book was, man, sometimes when you're calling 20 brokers try to get a truck that just had his load canceled, a lot of stuff goes out the window because of time. And so and there's been like some brokers I've talked to that the methods have worked, and there's other brokers that I've talked to that I can recognize those methods. And there was one broker that I had to move this truck. They needed this load. I'm like, okay, man, you win. Good job on you, man. and we took the rate. So
Hmm. It seems like what you're saying is if you use these tactics, you might have some more successful negotiations. Okay, let's move on. Drive everybody away. Neutralize the negative. Focus first on clearing the barriers to an agreement. Label fears to diffuse their power. And, like, hey, um, I know that, me being here today, it takes a lot of your time. Look, I'm a jerk. Let's just say that right off the bat. But, I believe that we can come to an agreement here. So I just neutralized the elephant in the room that I'm a jerk. Right. So
mhm.
now we no longer have to sit and beat around that bush. Or look, I'm a jerk. You don't have you have every right not to like me. We just diffused. We used a label to diffuse that, and we cleared that barrier. It's out in the open now. It's no longer a barrier.
Yeah, and sometimes you do that to soften the blow. Like,
Right.
I used that with one broker. I said, because something screwed up on their part, it was going to cause a big hubbub. I was like, okay, I've got a rate in mind, but it's going to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You know this. You know this. I'm going to take you to the cleaners, right? And he's like, yeah, I know, Steve. And
Well, that's another tactic. We're not quite there yet.
yeah,
Um, accusation audit. This one I don't like. I understand it, but I don't really quite understand how to execute it. So list the worst things my counterpart can say about me first. Use labels to reinforce and encourage positive perceptions. And remove "I understand" from your vocabulary. Never use it. So, how do you understand this to be or to work?
Well, I've broken the rule of using the words I understand, so I'm out on that. But you kind of just did it when you said, "Well, I'm a jerk." I know that this is probably not your best situation. Da 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 da. I think that's kind of falls in line with that. Where it relates to with brokers, I've admittedly I've used the term. I understand the market. I
Hey,
understand what this market's
can
bringing.
you
The
carry this for a
challenges.
second? I got an important phone call.
Sure.
Okay, I won't be a minute.
Okay. All right. So welcome to DIY's live feed. So, um, I'm totally ill prepared. Let me. Um. So one of the things that I've used is now the book says not to use the words I understand. So sometimes you'll break a couple of rules, but if you want to you want to show the broker that you understand his situation without saying I understand, because he might sit there and say, well, no, you don't understand, you're just a truck driver, you're just trying to get as much money as you can. They could really kind of push that. So um that's kind of how I look at it, right? So if you can show tactical empathy, like if you can say, hey, look, yeah, it's a tough market, these rates are kind of low. I think that's kind of where this is going from. So he said it was going to be a minute. That's a long minute. So. All right, he's back. And then DIY, man, he's back. Never
Oh,
mind.
I see how you are. Sorry, that was important.
I had a lot. I held it for a minute. I held it for 30 seconds, and half of that was full of ums. So it took me by surprise. I apologize.
Seems like what you're saying is you're trying to bury my channel and get me kicked off of YouTube. It sounds
Yes.
to me like, no, I'm just kidding. So we're good with neutralize the negative. That we just
Yeah.
did that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Accusation audit. Here's where I would have fell short. Start with no. The need to feel in control. Get it by saying no. So saying yes makes people defensive. If I hear no, then it's like, okay, what about this doesn't work for you? What would you need to make this work? It seems like there's something that bothers you.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's three types of yes. Counterfeit yes is an escape route, but they really want to say no. Confirmation, which is reflexive response question, affirmation with no promise of action. So it's kind of an empty promise of yes. And
Mm-hmm.
then the commitment, which would be a true agreement that leads to action. That's the one we're looking for. So you can trigger a no by saying things like, "Is now a bad time to talk?" No, if it's not, they're going to say no. You might sometimes need to force a counterpart into no by intentionally mislabeling an emotion. You sitting there having a conversation with them, and Steve, it seems to me like you're a little upset today. Like there's something between us that's you need to talk about.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the best examples he used in the book was if you're selling somebody water, right? You can, and there's a bunch of negotiating books about how to get the customer to say yes. And like sometimes that's the only way out of the conversation. Like, so if someone comes up to you, hey, you like water, right? Yes. Now they've kind of forced you into a situation where you got to defend that you don't want to buy their water.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we all need water. That's an obvious question.
Yeah, and
Obvious
you've opened the
answer.
door. So you like water, right? Yes. Well, then it's okay to talk about water with that person.
Yeah, and so that's some bad sales tactics. So if you were to call a
Right.
broker and go, "You need this load moved, right?" Yes. But now they're on the defensive.
What you
Now
would want to
they're
say is, we don't want this product to sit on the dock and miss the appointment, do you? Right? And the
right.
answer is no. So you're forcing them into a no.
Yeah, and that's the good part of no. So that's the exact scenario. So again, it's like this book applies to anything in your life, but I've taken some time, and so has Adam, to process this towards working with brokers and direct shippers and
Yeah.
all that.
Thank you, Mark M, for the super chat. Appreciate it. It says tip your host. And there's a lot in this book. It's not something you're gonna master and figure out like that. There's parts you're gonna get right away. There's gonna parts you're gonna get later. There's parts
Mhm.
you might never get, and it's a lot. I may reread this because some things, honestly, some things that didn't click with me.
Mhm.
Um, but I think if I redo it and condense it instead of over multiple days, I think it'll probably be more effective. Uh, I don't remember this part from the book, but email magic, such as things like, have you given up on this project? So if time passes, rather you don't want to be accusatory, confrontational, just, hey, I'm looking for a confirmation that you're still in or you're out. And something you do is like, hey, have you given up on this project?
Yeah, the way you word that, like if you're emailing back and forth with a broker, how many times have they not answered the email once you give them your number?
Right.
And so you can approach it, hey, is this load still available? It's like it's the way you word it. So um that was all right. That was good.
Okay. And then you want to get to a point where you get a that's right. So what you want to hear is that's right. Something you don't want to hear is yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Yet that's right is more of a confirmation. Yes, you're right is more of a surrender of, yeah, I may be just saying this to get you to shut up.
Right.
Oh,
I
thank you, David Richard, for $5 super chat. It says, how do you figure the percentage to tip this particular host? Gross annual income times 20 to 25% would be the industry standard.
I
Um,
agree with that
Bill Beasley,
100%.
come on, Woody can show you how it's done if he's in here, but I haven't seen him around in a while. Uh, where do we leave off? And then a summary to trigger that's right. Trigger that's right with a summary. One summary would be effective pauses, which is encourages counterparty to keep talking.
Mhm.
Most people cannot deal with silence. That's something I found to be true in my life. That silence is painful to people. It's very
Mhm.
uncomfortable, and they can't handle it. So if you just sit there quiet, they'll talk, and, and a lot of times they'll just keep talking. So you can encourage that's right by being quiet. Minimal encouragers of yes, okay, I see, to show I'm paying full attention.
Mhm.
Mirroring,
I
listening and
agree.
repeating back. Labeling, give feelings a name and identify how they feel. Paraphrase, repeat in my own words to show I'm really understanding. I feel like that's kind of an important one. It shows it's kind of a kind of mirroring, but yet you may go a little deeper to show that you really understand what they're saying.
Yep.
And then the last one is summarize. Re-articulate the meaning of what is said, acknowledgement of the emotions, paraphrasing and labeling at the same time.
Excellent. You're right about that. That silence thing is, like I said, sometime I had a driver call me, and he was wondering about, coming over to Like Trucking, and and he was needing something that I don't think we were ready to offer him. And so I just let him talk, and he talked and he talked. Come to find out, he was not in a good shape as far as owner operators go. and
Hmm.
and it helped me. It helped us making a decision whether we wanted to bring this person on or not.
Yeah, that is the number one area where I've used the be quiet part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I probably shouldn't even say this because then people know I'm up to it. If I'm talking to somebody on the phone about a job, interview or whatever, I'll ask some questions and then just sit there and let them talk. And before I know it, they're spilling their guts about every little thing. They're telling me
Mm-hmm.
things about their personality that I never would have known. Um, and most of them, after hearing all that, like I don't want to hire them. It's like you just told me for 10 because they think you're your friend, like they know you, and you just
Mm-hmm.
told me you haven't had a job in 3 months. You don't really like the work. Um, this person, that person screws me. Everybody screws me. I'm like, uh, are they all the problem, or are you the problem? You pretty much told me you don't like the work. You don't do this. You don't do that. Like this isn't really how an interview really goes. you know?
Yeah, it's amazing to me how many drivers they'll call up and they'll tell you what they won't do instead of telling you what they will do.
Hmm.
And so I look for emotion as well. I was once talking about something, it was unrelated, and I mentioned that I was from Springfield, and then this person all out of the blue just said, "Oh, by the way, F prime,"
Yeah.
and it completely like threw a wrench in the whole conversation because there was no point to it. I I didn't I wasn't we weren't talking about prime. He just related that Springfield and prime.
Hmm.
And so that told me that this was a very emotional person, which tells me that if you're a very emotional person, you're going to have trouble in the spot market, especially right now.
Yeah.
So,
And that silence thing can go the other way too. I've used that tactic. I mean, with a couple people, and they just go on to tell me like their whole life's plan and how they're going to get out there and just freaking kill it. And all he's
mhm,
like, man, I just want to learn. I want have you teach me this and that, and like I'm just like I'm ready to go work. I'm
mhm.
like, all right,
Yeah.
that's what you need to know. So it's a double edged sword, but it's a good one. It's
Well,
really effective.
well, by letting them talk, you're learning all about them.
Hmm.
And the bad people can learn how to manipulate you. And then the good people can utilize that stuff. Like, if you come across someone that's extra religious, you can kind of throw that in there. Oh yeah, this is God's plan, that kind of thing. And you can play off their emotions. That's car. Look, this book in the wrong hands can be kind of a negative thing as well. So
Yeah. Thank you, Cash is King Trucking, for the $5 super sticker. I appreciate that so much.
you're making a killing.
Well, you bring value.
I know.
Or, beg and plead.
It's the
Please,
beard. It's the beard.
please. Um, where did we leave off? Okay, that's right. Summary. Never split the difference. Okay, so claims never splitting the difference leads to a bad outcome for both sides. For
Mhm.
example, you end up with one black shoe and one brown shoe.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know that I would have thought that to be true before this book because it's negotiations about compromise. Okay, well we'll eventually come to the compromise. We'll get to a certain point and then we'll just meet in the middle. It's a split the difference type thing. And Chris Voss says doing that will lead to a bad outcome for both parties.
Two notes. We forgot to mention this earlier, but one of the best examples that's related to this was his experiment where he gave each pair of people, two people, $10,
Yeah,
and if they couldn't negotiate who got what,
it
they
couldn't
would
be
lose that
even.
$10. But they couldn't be. Yeah, they.
Yeah,
I think it had to be an odd number.
Yeah, you couldn't each just take half. It had to
And,
be. Well, it had to.
and
Yeah, you're right. It had to be an
yeah,
even number.
yeah. So, and what's interesting is that by I lost my train of thought here. So
Some of them couldn't come to an agreement,
right,
so they just ended up with nothing rather than realizing, however we do this doesn't matter. We're both ending up with, a few dollars more than we came here with today.
right. So that's where the fairness thing. That's what I was going to mention. The fairness that you brought up earlier is, it's not fair if someone gets 6 and I get 4, right? So if you go in there with that fairness mindset, meanwhile, the smart people that negotiated were like, how about I get 8, you get 2,
Hmm.
or I get 6, you get 4, or we could do it the other way around, because they realized if I do 6 and you get 4, well, that's $6 more than I had 5 minutes ago, and that's $4 more that you had 5 minutes ago.
Right.
And so that is another psychological tool to use, is that whole fairness thing. And so that tends to bring up our emotions. And so how many times have we heard, oh, the brokers are taking too much, the brokers are taking 50%, and you and I have always had the attitude, it doesn't matter what they're taking home, what matters is what you're taking home, right? And so understanding that, I think, has allowed you and I to be in the positions that we're in.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sterling Wheel. $20 super sticker. I appreciate that. Look who's making all that FedEx money. But um, that particular thing, it said right there about, the brokers are taking 15% or whatever. I always found it very telling how nobody got this right off the bat. You hear these people screaming out there, "Oh, these brokers are taking 300% of the load or 100% of the load." I'm like, you understand just the basic flaw in your premise of they're taking 300% of the load? That means if the load pays $1,000, they're keeping $3,000. Math doesn't work.
Right.
Like if they're keeping 100% of the load, they're keeping $1,000 and you're getting nothing, or what? Like I just, it's pure emotion at that point. It's pure emotion because you don't even realize like the basic fundamental flaw in your theory there. But
Right.
it's,
I just did a home run load out of Denver the other day, and the driver that did this was like, I know exactly how much the shipper paid the broker. And he goes, "Do you want to know?" And yeah. So he told me. I'm like, okay, cool. It didn't bother me at all. It did not bother me at all. It was a fair rate. And you being on the broker side, you understand that more than probably most drivers. Because I've heard your numbers, and CDN has also told me his numbers, and it's not what you think. So it's a it's a it's a it's a
it's
what's
it's what
misconception.
it's that thing of what you think you know, right?
Exactly.
And then it
So
also goes back to the thing of, okay, learn both sides of it.
yeah.
I have a very good friend that's they're a carrier and a broker, and over the 4th of July, he took a pounding. Like there's 3 loads where he lost over $1,500 per load because he had to pay holiday rates, and the shippers don't do that. When you contract that freight, you contract it year round at that rate.
Hmm.
So he's got to try to recover that over the period of a year. He's lost about 8 grand that week
Wow.
in the hole. It's the way it works. You got to know that when you take that on.
Hmm.
But anyway, neither here nor there. Back to the topic. Um, Deadlines. Deadlines make people do impulsive things. Resist the urge to rush as a deadline approaches. Take advantage of the rush in others, and share my deadlines. Information asymmetry is the worst for me. So taking
I get.
advantage of somebody else's rushing, I mean, that can put you in a good position. If
Hmm.
they're in such a rush, they lose attention to the details, and you know the details because you pay attention.
Hmm.
Take advantage of that.
Yeah. The other way I look at that too, as well, is if you're booking for next week, that there's not a time crunch on the broker's part. So some of us have this opinion that, um, they're not going to give me money till the last minute. Well, by the last minute, that load's gone with the market the way it is right now.
Right.
So you lose your leverage. So if you're going to pick leverage of booking ahead or leverage of booking, while you're in the dock of the last load, you're probably better off booking ahead. And especially if you understand that maybe that broker's got, okay, you got to get all of next Friday's loads done by Monday or Tuesday, because you're going to have to worry about this, that, and the other. And if you understand that, or if you understand how the shipper does their product, and when they post the loads, then you can use that to your advantage. We all heard of the 3:00 shuffle. And that was a method that I used at Landstar quite a bit. Friday at 3:00, man, was your best time to book a load, with the risk that you were going to sit if you couldn't get the rate you wanted. Nowadays, what I've found is that Friday 3:00, if you don't have your stuff booked, man, you're done.
You're screwed.
You're either sitting still or you're doing a bad rate.
Yeah, we're in a totally different market right now. By the way, I keep dropping the link to this book, the Amazon link to the book, in the chat.
I'll do that
if
too.
you want to get it for yourself, help yourself. So okay, now we're to fair. We're getting to some of the better ones here. 3 uses of fair. Okay, you can use it as a defensive move of, we just want what's fair. A nefarious accusation of, we've given you a fair offer. And then a positive move of, I want you to feel like you're being treated fairly at all times. So please stop me at any point if you feel I'm being unfair, and we'll address it.
That third one is gold, because
and you have to be real careful with the second one of the accusation, because that can really put somebody on the defensive.
Yeah. And that's the name of the game. So that third one, you're showing tactical empathy. You're using, because everybody look, the word deserve is used as a sales tactic every single day. Whether it's food or soda or a new car, you deserve that new car. You deserve that new car. No, I don't deserve to be in debt for $50,000. I don't deserve that. And so deserve, that creates an emotion. And so if you're creating negative emotion, that works against you. And so, but you can also use that to manipulate, because we're, it comes down to human nature. We all feel like we deserve something. We all feel like we need to be fair treated, right?
Fair treated.
So, yeah. Or treated fair, I guess. My English sucks.
English sucks. Sounds like you're saying you struggle with the English language. I'm just kidding.
Pay attention, children. Pay attention.
No, and also that positive one, I want you to feel like you're being treated fairly at all times. It also puts in their head, wait a minute, this guy cares about treating me fairly? He cares about anything that I, on my half of this thing? So it's kind of a double sword there.
Yeah, it makes you stand out from the other drivers that are accusatory and like, wait a minute, I've just talked to 10 drivers that don't care about my problems, and this guy kind of gets it. You know what? And he's giving me a tracking link. Hell yeah, we'll give it to this guy.
Right. Sorry, I gotta answer a text here. This I know this is one of your favorites here. The extreme anchor, bending the counterpart's reality by anchoring the starting point. Before making an offer, emotionally anchor by saying how bad it will be. Set an extreme anchor to make my real number seem reasonable, and use a range to seem less aggressive. You talk. I got an important call. I'll be right back.
All right, this one's easy for me. Setting the anchor. Some people will argue that it's good for them to set the anchor first. Sometimes it's good for you to set the anchor first. The important part to me is on an emotional level. Sometimes you don't have the choice. Sometimes the broker will set the anchor, and then sometimes they'll try to pry it out of you. And the longer, so if a broker calls and says, "Hey, so it's 30,000 pounds, it's 26 pallets, it's macaroni, delivers at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. What rate are you looking to go with?" And if I sit there and stammer, "Well, I don't know, so because I want them to set the anchor. But instead, what I do is I go, "Well, is there a target rate that you need?" So that implies that I know that they have a target rate. That implies that they have their boss telling them what they can sell this for. And so I make them set the anchor. And what it does is it kind of keeps it gives me an idea of where they're going to be at. So where it can work against you is if they do this dollar a mile, and that creates an emotional response with me. I recognize that that's a tactic. I've said this in my live feeds on my channel, is that when they set the anchor so low, it makes you not even want to call on that load. And so therefore they've taken you out of the equation, and that's a method of that's a method, right? So Adam, I don't know if you heard any of that, but I was talking about setting the anchor and some of the methods that brokers use and what I use.
Okay.
You know how sometimes you call in a load and someone will go, "Okay, it's 26 pallets, it's 30,000 pounds, delivers at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. What rate are you looking to be at?" Now, if I hem and haw because I don't want to set the anchor, then I can go, "Well, what's your target rate for this?" And they're going to tell me like $1 a mile, right? So it's up to me to not be emotional about that. Just like it's up to them if I sit there, "Well, I need $3 a mile," or or this, I go by the overall rate, then they might hang up on me. We've all had brokers hang up on us, right?
Right.
So the book talks about setting the anchor, but the way I looked at it was you have to have the skill set, whether they set it first or you set it first. You have to be able to have the skill set to handle both, because every single day you're gonna have both situations.
Right.
I've literally asked $1,000 over the 30-day and gotten it without a bat an eye. And every time you do that, you're like, "Crap, I should have asked for more." And it kind of goes with your summary earlier about, well, no, that was another video I watched. But if you like, one of the things, if one of the stories in the book was a guy went in to negotiate his salary, and what the employer did was, "Okay, how about he didn't let the employer go first. He just said, 'I need $125,000.' And the employer's like, 'Okay, done,' realizing that they usually offer 145 when to everybody else at the same position. You remember that part of the book? And so he just kind
A
of
little
screwed
bit.
himself. So sometimes setting the anchor is a bad thing, because I know that you've all had times where you go, "Okay, I need $5,000 for this load," thinking that and it's $1,000 over the average, and they don't bat an eye. The first thing that comes to your head is like, "Okay, what's wrong with this load? Why did they agree? I should have asked for 55." so
Right.
that's kind of where that kicks in. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it makes sense. I missed a good bit of what you were talking about there, but some people have the fear of even asking.
I had mentioned how important it is, and I don't know if the book really kind of. I think the book's more like, don't set the anchor. With me, I'm more like, you better have a skill set regardless of who sets the anchor,
Right.
because sometimes you don't have a choice. I mean, sometimes brokers will not give you a number, and
Right.
other times they'll throw that number right out in the beginning. So having the skill set to handle both situations, I think, is more important.
Right. Oh, I agree. Sorry, my call there was I just had a reefer go down, so I'm trying. He's in Evanston, Wyoming. I'm trying to find a reefer repair shop anywhere. Anybody know of a Thermo King repair shop or dealer somewhere near Evanston, Wyoming? Let me know.
Man, that sucks.
It does suck. It looks like we're going back to Salt Lake City.
My reefer has never gone down.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't have a reefer. What are you talking about?
Now you're getting it.
Loss aversion. People will take more risks to avoid a loss than realize a gain, and make sure my opponent sees there is something to lose by inaction. So it's basically encouraging somebody to act.
Mm-hmm. If they feel like they're going to lose something, that people are more prone to take the certain thing, the sure thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if someone goes, okay, if you can get $100,000, you have a 95% chance of getting $100,000, or you got a 100% chance of getting $80,000. Which one are you taking? Human nature,
probably,
they'll usually, because you don't want to take that. If you're a gambling person, you're gonna like, oh yeah, let's go for the 100, baby.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where that goes on that. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, depending on the difference in the dollar amount, it's hard not to go for the sure thing at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking, 90% chance of getting 90,000 or 100% chance of getting 25,000, I'm probably more inclined to stick it out for that 90%.
Right.
And
All right, what's next?
Bending their reality. Anchor their emotions. Start with an accusation audit, acknowledging all their fears. Anchor them in preparation for a loss.
Yeah,
So
that's kind of the method I used on that one broker where I told him, okay, this is going to hurt,
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like preparing to let them down gently.
Yeah.
Let the other. Oh, okay. I missed some stuff there. Calibrated questions. The listener has control of the conversation. The goal is to suspend unbelief. Calibrate questions to ask for help. This gets complicated.
Well,
phrases,
we can buzz through them
yeah,
because I think we can get to the question or the comments. I think that'll be important because there's some really good comments coming in here.
yeah.
So
Okay.
we don't want to give the whole book away.
Yeah. How about we skip to like the Black Swan event? Okay.
Black Swan event. That is the if you're like, I'm only reading one chapter of this book. That is the chapter. Of course, the others, it won't make a lot of sense without the others, but that is the most important chapter in my opinion. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I don't necessarily understand how to find it all the time. I mean, what are you like? How do you dig for that? I mean, if nothing presents itself as, hey, this is the event, how do you get to that point?
It's difficult, especially with I think it's easier said than done, only because like if you're face to face with somebody, I think it makes it easier to recognize a black swan, but I've always had a worst case scenario in my head anyways. And I don't know, the black swan, so what a black swan event is something that is unseen. Like trying to deliver Miami and you didn't know that there was a hurricane is a black swan event, right? Or the high fuel prices that we had was a black swan event.
Okay.
I think. I think my wife said I had kind of had that wrong. That was part of my interpretation, but
The shortage
is that
of
refreshed in
equipment,
your memory a little bit?
shortage of drivers. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The fact that you have 100 loads and there's only one truck out here, to pick from.
Right.
It's a something that will drastically alter the outcome of the situation.
Yeah, and knowing that, right? So if you can, but a black swan event is something that either party did not plan, and the example they used was a guy that took a bunch of people hostage, and they were trying to negotiate this person out, and because the negotiators didn't know, because their methods weren't using the methods they were using weren't working, because they didn't know he had just killed a bunch of people at a house before. They didn't know that all he really wanted was to be shot by the police.
Mm-hmm.
So here they are approaching the negotiating tactics on everything that they've always done. But then, once the guy, blasted someone in front of everybody, um, then they had to take him out. And then come to find out, because of the information they would learn later after the incident, that was what the guy wanted all along. And so what they had to do is they had to go over the entire process of what happened and look at the cues that they missed that would have told them that this was the goal of the guy. And had they known that, they would have approached it. I think they just would have went in to take him out. So
Right. Had they
that's the
known
kind
it.
of, yeah. So that was the example used in the book. So
Okay.
that's kind of like, not realizing the price of shipping that was going to go up, not realizing the shortages that would occur. Anybody who had to get a new fuel pump or water pump for a Freightliner last year could tell you that nobody predicted that. So
Right. So okay,
but
so let's do the last one here, and then we'll go to comments. Leverage.
okay,
Something you and CDN talk
leverage is
about
big. So what are your
often.
thoughts?
You're right. It's one of the biggest things. I mean, if you have no leverage, even if you have all these other things going for you, you're going to be in a real tough spot. And you got to know when to recognize the difference of when you have it and when you don't. Right now, we have no leverage other than special
Right.
circumstances like a holiday or DOT week. Anything other than that, otherwise, leverage is out the window for us. They have all the leverage.
Right. So you have to kind of create some of your own leverage, and that's where the non-monetary things, so like, okay, well, we'll do it for this, and we'll also offer you this. We'll offer you the tracking. We'll offer you check calls. We'll take pictures of the bill and send it to you. We'll offer this. We'll do what that carrier won't. We're willing to go into in the middle of the Bronx to pick this load up, where I know that other carriers won't. You have to create your own leverage. But there are times when I have a driver who says, "Hey, man, I need to be home by tomorrow, and I have to be home, and I don't want to go home empty." So I look at the load boards and I type in from point A to point B. There's one load. I call on that. I don't let the broker know that I'm not going to say no to this load. I don't give them that. I'm not going to give them any more leverage than I have to. But at that point, I either got to take the load or don't. Now in the book, he
Yeah.
talks about walking away from deals, but it's hard to walk away from a deal when that's your only option.
Sometimes you need that
It's either
deal.
that, because you got, yeah, and that's where they got you, and recognizing that. And so it's hard to not be emotional when you have no leverage.
Right. Right.
And so and a good negotiator is going to take advantage of that. So that's where talking too much. Oh, I really need to slow because I need to get my driver home, man. He's got a sick kid, and da 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 da. And the broker's going to be like, if they have a bad part of them, they're going to be like, dollar a mile, man, take it or leave it.
You can start
So
with all that conversation with all the leverage and end it with none. You can
right.
talk yourself right out of leverage. Definitely. Thank you, Southbound Pachyderm, for the super chat. It says thanks for taking the time to share this information with us. Yeah, that's we're happy to do that. Let's you're right. There is a lot of good
Comments.
there you go. That's the word. That's what we were looking for. Uh Sterling Wheel says great book. Yes. Vic Med in the house, Wheel Burner. Thanks for coming in. Sterling Wheel says my divorce lawyer had a signed copy of that book. I had to read it after seeing that. Yeah, any lawyer worth his salt ought to have that. Clyde says, I'm 3 hours in on this book on Audible. Seems like a lot of good info. Yeah,
It is.
absolutely. How to negotiate pay is very important. Yeah, some things are non-negotiable. Um, yeah. Once again, the difference between active and passive listening. Like, so we started off this show with me actively listening to everything you said, and then somebody gave me a bad news phone call here, and then since then I've been passively listening because I'm slightly distracted. So, uh, good case in
Hmm.
point example right there, right?
Men are good at passive listening. My wife will tell you.
So you sounds like what your wife says is that you don't listen.
Huh?
Exactly.
What'd you say?
CDN, there we go. Good afternoon. I've been too busy to finish this book, but I'll get her done. We know you will. We know you will. Um, yeah, double header today. Had some little extra time, so figured we'd get this taken care of here. Yeah, there you go. With both feet says trucking don't care about your feelings. Direct quote from me. Get your T-shirt in the merch store. CDN says mirror confirms that you understand the other person, which is a way to get approval to advance the conversation to a new prospect or negotiating. Yeah, yeah, it's you're seeking their approval, to them subconsciously. They don't even know that they're doing it. David Richards says, "Greetings. I'm a bit late. My experience taught me to fake a good attitude with shippers and receivers, and do the same with DOT. It's just good advice. Sometimes it can't hurt. Sometimes it's your best strategy, and sometimes it's hard to put on that face, though.
Absolutely. Oh,
Yeah."
yeah.
Sterling Wheel says, "I'm terrible at mirroring. Sometimes sounds like mockery. Hmm. Or do you do it in a parrot voice? Or
With a squawk at the end
yeah,
of each sentence.
do you put on a toucan Sam mask while you're doing it?" David Richards says, "I was a late night rock DJ 45 years ago. I can do the voice, man." All right. Ryan Brandenburg in the house. Mark M. David says, "I thought I was a member here. Same with Cash. Told me sometimes YouTube dismembers people for some reason." Yeah, I gave you a wrench back. I don't know if you had one or what, but you got a wrench memberships. I have no control over that. That's something you got to sign up for.
Well, sometimes the
Wheelburner.
icon for the memberships don't show up in every single chat. Every time you chat, the
Oh,
the icon doesn't show up. So you're probably still a member. You just
sometimes
can't see
if
it.
your credit card expires, you'll lose your membership though too. Women seem to have the ability. She's got that Jedi mind control over you, Wheelburner.
Yep. We understand completely,
Yes.
Will Burner. So what you're saying is that you get labeled the hell out of from your wife. We get it.
What you're saying is, Dar runs that show over there. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep, the cats too.
David says mirroring. That's funny. When I ran New York City, I found myself talking like them immediately. I always said as soon as I crossed the GW Bridge, I had to become a New Yorker. Yeah, there you go. I'm guilty of that too. I have a driver that has a strong Tennessee accent, and after I talk to him on the phone, I find myself talking like him. But it's kind of funny. Um, Wheelburner says he's heard you talk about absolutely nothing for more than 5 minutes straight. You got this. There
Yeah,
you go.
that was when you left me out in the cold. You abandoned me because of your emergency.
Hmm. Okay. You're welcome. Southbound Pachyderm says, I seriously feel like I have a better chance of negotiating the price of my value menu at the Taco Bell drive-through window than negotiating rates with a broker. It's pretty daunting. You win some, lose some. You ain't gonna win them all. Just sometimes every once in a while you hit a home run.
Progress, not perfection.
Yeah. Mark M says, I just serviced a few Prime trailers last week. They're necessary evil, to be honest. Most people there are good folks. Yeah. I think it's a glitch in the billing system. It makes no sense for a channel to delete a member. We don't have the ability to delete a member. I couldn't take away your membership if I wanted to.
Nope.
There's no mechanism for it. So it's
Right.
either YouTube or credit card expired or I don't know. Have you had that happen to you, Steve?
Yeah. I don't really pay attention. I've only members of like 2 people. You're one of them, and Pale Rider's the other. As far as like, I don't sit there and look at my membership list to see how, I mean, I'll pay attention to see if it's going up or down, but I've heard people say that were gifted memberships and then they never took them off. And then I've had people, I've had times where the icon just doesn't show up, but I'm still a member. So it's memberships are kind of screwy.
Mm-hmm.
When you do a members only live feed, sometimes I get a notification, sometimes I don't.
Okay. YouTube's kind of glitchy that way. Mark M says, I noticed having tracking on my trailer help book loads and keep them booked. Brokers stopped dropping loads with excuses at the last minute. I knew they were booking with a cheaper truck. Okay. Tracking on the trailer, that might be a good idea. I haven't thought about that. David Richard, once again, gentlemen, good conversation, good information. I hope you're all doing well. If you're not, fake it. Get out there on a tractor and relax for a little while. Yeah, we need to do some of that. Just bought another truck yesterday, so I got to go pick that up today, maybe, or tomorrow. Okay. Sterling Wheel says the author of this book was interviewed by Lex Friedman. It's worth a watch after seeing DIY Lord here. I know who Lex Friedman is. Have you seen that interview, Steve?
No.
Okay.
So Sterling, send me a link to that if you can, please, to my phone, or you put it up in the chat. He's got a wrench, don't he? Yeah.
Yeah, should. If he doesn't, yeah. If he don't, I'll give him one.
If he's still watching.
I'm sure he is. He's got
Yeah, he
nothing else
does.
to do. This book added to my read list. Okay. Yeah. Reefer broke down in BFE, Wyoming on a Saturday. That's going to be some bug bucks. Yeah, that's going to suck.
Yeah.
I think I know what the problem is, though. Epic Trucking Fails. Yeah, that's a great channel. Check that one out. Oh, Adam Bennett in the house. Thank you for a super chat. Appreciate it. Enjoyed the Fuel Ox live. Yeah, I love talking. Rant. I tell you what, that's a solid guy right there. Like, proud to have him as a friend. Like, behind the scenes, we're very a lot of things in common. Always talking. Shoot. Can you talk for just a minute? I'm sorry. One second.
Sure. Maybe I can go over the comments. Let's see where we were at. I can't highlight the comments, so. All right. So, Sterling, Will, you need to go back to his older videos just after he sold off. Those were full of good info. Now he's in full retirement mode. He does a live every so often. Thank you, Mark M. Tolga says the book is already added to his read list. Good deal. Cool Truckin's in the house. Good to see you. Let's see. We're almost out of comments. There we go. Always learning from you guys. Thanks, Alfalfa. We try. We try to spread the wealth of knowledge because, or at least we're really good at pretending what we know something. Sean will leave the Snorler show if Ukraine Girl comes on. Angelica Larson was the person I was telling you about the other day in my live feed, Sean. That's the Swedish trucker chick that I'll watch a video or two of. Alfalfa's asking if Cash is in Wham Sutter. OMG, Adam, you don't have, says Mark, you don't have tracking on your trailers. How do you sleep at night? It's the greatest thing ever. You can get alarms for temps, faults, and even things like the alternator charging too much. That's what I would do. I've got a tracker on my trailer, and it's not even a reefer. Mark M makes a great point. welcome back.
Yeah, I saw it. Um, yeah, I have a bunch of pretty good guys. I trust them completely. They're all on top of that. So, you know, it'll happen. It'll happen. It's just there always just seems to be something else to do or spend your money on, you know. So
Yeah.
we'll get there. But they all are really good at that, keeping an eye on that stuff. So
Mhm. No, Cash just got a comment. I read the rest of the comments, so you're good.
oh,
Except
okay.
Cash just put up a new.
His alternator just went out. Oh, got the jumper cables running from the truck to the trailer. That's how you do it. It'll run pretty
Oh
good.
man.
Those reefers are designed to go down to low voltage. I did learn that. I think 10.4, if I remember right. So it'll run for a good while. But yeah, keep the jumper cables
Wow.
on there when you can. Um, so I think have we said about everything we can say about this here book? Uh-oh, froze up. Snorlord did the old freeze up on me. So we're gonna have to now figure out what book we're gonna do next. There is a new book coming out in the 1 second after
Might be me.
series. Oh, are you back now?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry. I don't know if
Okay.
my signal doing that or yours.
I don't know.
I think it's
Either way.
mine.
But I was saying I think we've probably said about all we're gonna say probably about this book. People need to read it or not read it. They got plenty of information, decide to read it or not. So let's start talking about the next book. What are we gonna do for the next
Oh
book?
man, that's a tough one.
We're close to the new 1 second after book coming out.
Yeah, I'm thinking that might be it. Now there is a book that I just ordered. It's from John Lovell, which is also on YouTube as the Warrior Poet. He's got a book out. Let me see if I can find that one. That one I'm getting ready to read. See if I can find it here. Let me put a link in here.
What's it called? What's the name of that one?
The Warrior Poet Way, A Guide to Living Free and Dying Well.
Let me look that up. Amazon here. Oh, geez. Okay, let me get a link for that.
I put a link in there.
I can't hear you.
I said I put a link in there.
There. There's a new link to the link to the new book. I'm just messing with you. Okay, we can do that. What's the premise of this book? War on modern masculinity, and everywhere we look, on every front, we hold sacred. Hmm. All right. So genre would be
There's
what?
a
More like a self-improvement book.
yeah. There was a great interview with Ryan Mickler. I'll send you the link to that video. It's a great interview. This is just an idea because I just literally ordered this book after that interview. I've always been a fan of the Warrior Poet YouTube channel. I don't watch everything he does. He's more of a gun culture guy, but he's got a good Christian moral values, and he's got his head on his shoulders. He's just talks about how it's important to be situation aware, but also how we can improve ourselves, because that's literally why the world's falling apart, kind of a thing. But if you want to wait until the 1 second after, I forget what the name of that one's going to be. What if the pre-orders in?
Wasn't it 5 years after or something?
Yeah, let's see if I can find it here.
5 years later. Yeah, 5 years. 5 years later. Oh, it's available in
Oh,
Amazon. says available instantly. Let me just verify that here. It looks like it's available. I say,
It
oh, I'm
says
jumping.
pre-order price guarantee.
On my screen here. Let's see here. See, I'm not showing that. Oh, release is August 22nd. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a little far away.
Yeah.
Let's put something in between here. Anybody got any suggestions?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We had a bunch of suggestions in some previous ones, but I didn't write them down because, it's a lot of work.
Working's hard.
Yeah. Or we could just pick something between us and then we put out a post on it. How about we do that?
Yeah, we could do that.
It's about time to wrap up here.
Yeah, I'll send you an interview of this guy, and you tell me what you think, and if you want to do that John Lovell book, cool. If not, then we'll figure it out.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming in today and watching this nonsense. We both got stuff I got to get this reefer thing taken care of here. So everybody,
Well, good luck.
take care and have a great day.
Later.